Daiichi has been around for years, and as with many IP, it's incredibly beloved. From 1954 to 2025, this overgrown lizard has made an impact for generations to come. But have you ever wanted something new from Godzilla? Maybe a different take on the character? No, not like that. I'm talking about like a new iteration that still keeps the spirit of the original film. Well, now we have one. But it's not just called Godzilla, it's Shin Godzilla, in 4K. In 4K. In other words, it got re-released. The movie is centered around the Japanese trying to go through a lot of red tapes to handle a crisis. What's the problem? Well, a large creature came up from the depths and started wreaking havoc. All of a sudden, it started to mutate. Then it went back into the bay. With a secret organization working around the bureaucracy, Japan is facing a challenge. Now, when it comes to Godzilla, his origin stayed the same for almost 60 years. I was there when Shin Godzilla first came out, and I can tell you, some people just didn't like the change. More on said changes later. This movie is more in line with the original 1954 film in terms of tone and direction. Don't get me wrong, there's still some crazy shit in there. But it's more like the film that came before everything. Whereas the 1954 film was about the horrors of nuclear weapons, this is about Japanese politics and its sluggish response. This is also an allegory for the triple disaster of 2011. This tragedy revolves around an earthquake, a tsunami, and a nuclear meltdown in Fukushima, all on the same day. It's a really sad story.
What we have found in Japan is a catastrophe that reveals both the power of nature and the fragility of human technology.
The Fukushima Daiichi crisis is not one nuclear emergency, it is 4 potentially catastrophic events standing side by side. In all, there are 6 reactor stations. Numbers 1 through 4 are in peril. Last week, crews risked their lives to get water onto melting uranium fuel. Through explosions and blasts of radioactive steam.
Why did 74 children have to die, along with their hopes and dreams? How could the school have imagined that the tsunami wouldn't have come that far?
She prays at the Okawa school where her daughter and 72 other elementary school children died. She comes here every day, she told us, even though this is a sad place.
The students did as they'd been taught. When the earthquake struck, they ducked under their desks, and when it was over, they came out here to the playground, into the open, to be safe from aftershocks. They were all lined up here as instructed when the tsunami swept in, washing 74 children and 10 teachers to their deaths.
How could this happen, Naomi Hiratsuko wants to know. Why did they wait? The hill is right there. She channeled her grief and rage into searching for her daughter's body. She learned to operate a heavy excavator so she could search more places. Even after her daughter's body was found, she continues to search for others. Nobody wants their child left in the mud, she said. Saomi Shito focused her anger at the school. Why, she demanded, were the children not protected? At the time, she said one school official told them it was their destiny. That so enraged parents of the dead children they did something not often seen in Japan. They shouted at school officials. In this video of one heated meeting shot by a parent, this man slammed a shoe on the table. "That's all that's left of my daughter," he said. The only teacher to survive the tsunami, there, on the left, hung his head in shame.
But backing up a bit, satire here is again Japanese sluggish response to natural disasters, as in everything, and I do mean everything, has to have a meaning. But not all hope is lost, as our main character, Randall Yaguchi, organizes a team of free thinkers to stop the creature. Yaguchi doesn't really have much depth as a character, but that's not the point of the movie. Now, of course, it's a re-release, so are there any changes? Kinda, despite the 4K being advertised. One main change is the subtitles. I won't lie, the yellow version definitely fits the eeriness of the movie, rather than the white version. Another change is one of the shots. It's mostly an alternative shot of Goji's head. Another change, the Japanese title card. In the original, there were many different title cards to explain what position they're in, what the room they're in, and all kinds of hierarchies they will have. They will be plastered on the screen in Japanese font. And that was in the theatrical version. But in the Blu-ray version, they kind of got rid of it for more English subtitles. But let's get on to the main star himself, the Big G, the king of the monsters, Godzilla. This has to be the most radically different version of the character, and it paid off superbly. That's not to say it didn't have any trouble outside Japan. I was there when the fandom was divided severely, to the point where it caused one of the most respected G-tubers to go on hiatus. Twice. Back to this version of Godzilla. There have been many different videos explaining this version, but I'll get my 2 cents here. To summarize, in the 1950s, some nuclear cocktails had been dumped into the ocean, where an ancient marine animal coincidentally started consuming it. The first one to discover this creature was Goromaki. He was mentioned previously by the Special Presidential Envoy. Yes, that's her actual name. They traced its source back to the yacht that was found in the beginning of the movie, which it turns out to be his yacht, but the man himself is missing. The theory now is that Goro might have fed himself to Gojira, giving him access to come on land. Now Goji has multiple forms, each being more terrifying than the last, each adapting to its environment. Whew, that was a mouthful. The first form we see is his tail. We never see his full body, so it's up to our imagination to fill in the blanks. The second form is named Matakun. He does look a bit goofy at first, but once you get to know him, he's terrifying. Stop looking at me! The third form is named Shinagawa-kun, where he starts to look a bit more like Godzilla. Just a bit red around the gills. And this is also the first time where we hear the iconic roar. And fun fact, whenever he roars, that's because he's in pain. Because he's literally evolving in just such a rapid pace, and he can't even die because his body won't allow him. It's really sad. Imagine being in that situation. That's not the only time we see him blatantly in pain. There is a deleted scene where it looks like he is vomiting out gallons of blood. It could be interpreted of him trying to use his atomic breath. But can't. As a result, well, you know. Now the fourth form is what was being promoted, happily named Kamakura-san. He now looks like his Showa era design, but there's still something off about him. He has red accents around his body. His legs and arms are out of proportion. He has misshapen teeth, sunken eyes, added body parts all over him, and a really long tail with a face on the end. This form is also where he gets his atomic breath, in a nice shade of purple. Also, we can do this shit. Now, I mentioned before that this version was very divisive in the fandom. There are several reasons for that. 1. It's not a sequel to the original Godzilla. Well, it doesn't have to be. Most of the time we see the same Godzilla and it just gets stale, man. Number 2. It's not as exciting as it was. Looking at Final Wars, it didn't make that much money, and it was what ultimately led Godzilla to that hibernative state. And thus, killing Soup Nation as a whole. Besides, that's what the Monsterverse is for now. You want fun monster actions? Monsterverse has got you covered. Despite some of the more goofier shit. Number 3. It's too different. And that's what made it unique. Design, the risk, the creative angle, they all make this Godzilla stand out from the rest. This Godzilla definitely seemed like a version that you'll see in a nightmare or a fever dream. It's that kind of surrealism that makes it pop. That's why I never had a problem with the design. Mainly because I love my gothic shit. But it was another way of addressing the danger of nuclear testing without hammering in the past. That, and it also makes them a lot more striking. So, with all that said, it's time to get some spoilers. Yaguchi's team has started making a coagulant in an attempt to literally freeze Godzilla in place. Time is not on their side, however, as the US plans on dropping an atom bomb on Godzilla, which theoretically wouldn't work, considering he's already radioactive. Through sheer luck, Yaguchi and his plane successfully stopped the countdown and froze Godzilla, putting a stop to his mutations. And with all that, the day is saved. Kinda. This isn't the first time we saw this. They did explain how he plans on reproducing, but there's also a deleted scene where they explore this further. Lovely. But alas, this movie will never get a sequel. There have been talks about it, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no plan for it. Or is there? Hell yeah!